So here's the plan. We're picking top 5 video game developers, and we're going to do a draft. So obviously we can't pick the same person. I don't think these are in a particular order because we have to gamify it like a little bit. Like I want to pick someone that so you don't pick them. You can flip a coin for first. I'll pull up a oh, it's flipping already. What'd you pick?
Tails never fails, baby.
Okay, you got it.
Let's go, dude. I hate this because I actually wanted to go second. I feel like
Tails kind of did fail then.
Tails failed a little bit.
All right.
I think 1-1 for me, just straight up nostalgia play. For the most part, it's gotta be Bioware.
Ooh, okay,
That's
yeah.
1-1.
I had them.
Were they in your top 5?
They were not. It's the thing with Bioware, even though I do have one on this list that's going to contradict this theory, but like Bioware just hasn't done a whole lot for me like recently. I mean, they did Mass Effect Legendary Edition, but that's like effectively a 2012 game. I liked Andromeda, but just they haven't really. I mean, the thing with Bioware is they just recently haven't released many games. But like to your point, like in the past, like bangers.
Dude, I mean, literally, just some notes I took down. Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, both absolute heaters. Neverwinter Nights 1, which was phenomenal. I mean, I don't know if I'd say phenomenal, but I enjoyed it as a kid. So I was getting into RPGs, so I thought that one was really fun. KOTOR was crazy. Jade Empire was pretty good. Mass Effect was crazy. Dragon Age was crazy. Anthem was trash. So I feel like if you just go off and Andromeda was kind of trash or whatever, but I feel like if you go off just like their legacy of their full package
catalog,
it's nuts.
Yeah,
Baldur's Gate 2 is like one of the best games, and I played that pretty late in my gaming career too. It's like it's amazing, man. So well written. And RPGs are my favorite, so I'm gonna skew that way for sure on this list. But
makes sense.
I just think I think you can't argue them being up there. At least
I totally agree. Yeah, I mean their pedigree is rad as hell. I think the only issue is I noticed something, you're missing one of their best games in that list you just mentioned.
Sonic Andromeda.
I'm talking Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood.
That's what I thought. I was like, dude. I was like,
I love that it's an RPG also, which is good as hell. BioWare, whenever starting with Baldur's Gate, so that's 98, and they just shot heaters out for the next, for really like the next 20 years.
They absolutely smoked.
Which is crazy.
They're phenomenal. I mean, it's kind of funny, like it's a theme in my list. Like there's a couple of companies that have kind of fallen off for developers, but I mean, at the end of the day, like today, I feel like there's no developers right now very few that are making like great games, game after game. So I feel like you kind of got to lean on some of the classics, but yeah, that's what I'm taking for my first one.
The thing about I think about this with the Mass Effect trilogy a lot. Like, I think it's under the radar how ambitious that entire trilogy is. Like, it's like probably one of the most ambitious like gaming trilogies like ever made. Because like of just how like small little thing, like basically if like Rex dies in the first one or if like Garrus dies in the second one, they had to build a game with all those choices in mind. So there's so many different like branching paths of like what would like there's certain characters that I think of like if they aren't like I don't really know how the game goes forward if they're not alive. Like if Tali dies, like I don't understand how 3 works.
Yeah, there's no other game that I can think of that has like that type of continuity like to that level. It's crazy. So I'm a huge fan. Yeah, BioWare, I take them as my first pick.
We're just gonna get this guy out of the way. The easiest one.
Yeah,
Nintendo. So the thing with them is obviously, I mean, the list is insane, and it's pretty much Mario, Zelda, Mario Kart, like all this crazy stuff in here.
DK.
Well, actually no.
DK's on Nintendo.
Not developed by Nintendo, but that's a teaser to one of my later picks. But
one of these later ones, okay.
Well, I think the thing with Nintendo that people like forget, there are some like games that actually aren't developed by them. Like Pokemon is a Nintendo game.
Yeah, that's
right. Like Pokemon isn't developed by Nintendo.
Another one on the list.
that was really the only one I had up my sleeve. I'm sure there's.
DK, I mean, DK's a good one.
DK's not, yeah. Well, now no, actually they technically aren't anymore. Super Mario Sunshine, Animal Crossing, Pikmin, Luigi's Mansion, all the Mario worlds, all the Super Marios, like probably the best video game developer in the world, and everything they do is just good. Everything is good.
I thought about jumping on them, but I figured if you went first, you would take them. So, dude, I just realized I got a lot of B's on my list. So number 2 for B is gonna be Blizzard.
That was
again,
next for me.
Again, it falls off. But I mean, when you just look at the initial portfolio that they created, Warcraft, StarCraft, Diablo, and then all the iterations after that. Like, I don't know if they made every single one, but I know World of Warcraft they made.
Mm-hmm.
I know ODub they made. I think there's a different studio maybe, and Hearthstone was maybe a different studio within there. But I mean, if you just think based on like World of Warcraft, StarCraft, Warcraft, Diablo 1 and 2, I mean, or Diablo 1 even, I mean, it's no matter which way we slice it with the rules, I feel like they're
oh dude, I mean,
they're goated. I mean, they had to be on the list somewhere. And again, they've kind of fallen off a little bit, or maybe not fallen off, but like they just have lost a little bit of their luster with all these scandals and things. But dude, for me, they're like very formative, like, you know, game company growing up for me, like huge.
I think these next couple of years are going to be like super important for them, because it's
Diablo 4.
It's Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2 right now. And what's crazy, I mean, the thing that's crazy about Blizzard, and I remember whenever they announced Overwatch, one of the things they like said whenever they were announcing it, like, all right, we're introducing like a new IP for the first time in, I think it was like 15 years.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. They have, I mean, and I feel like at some point there's
another company on my list that's kind of
the same way
in that camp a little bit.
Yeah, they just haven't popped out like a new IP in a minute.
I hope they do, though.
Me too. I think so.
It looks like Blizzard. It looks like Diablo and ODub 2. You're right. That's the two
that's next up. Yeah,
are kind of in the chamber. But yeah, kind of RPG heavy pick so far for me. So I need to mix it up a little bit. But
no, I feel you.
I know you love RPGs, so I feel like you'll slide. I'm curious what next. I'm definitely biased on this. Like, I'm gonna objective best, and like this is biased for me.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go biased. So this next one, we're still kind of like in that theme that you and I were talking about, which is like a lot of stuff in the past, but it would be Rare.
Oh, that's a good one. I didn't have Rare on my list.
Rare, if you got to think about like, I mean, because right now when you think of Rare, always like Sea of Thieves. Dude, Rare's library is insane. All the Donkey Kong countries, GoldenEye,
64, which is low-key GoldenEye. I didn't even think of. That's a great
Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, Perfect Dark. I mean, if you, I love Viva Pinata, Conker's Bad Fur Day. They in the 90s and 2000s. I mean, Battletoads. Yeah. Oh, Killer Instinct. If you were a Killer Instinct guy, like my family was huge into Killer Instinct. It's crazy. They're good. Very under the radar, but they ruled the 90s. Like they ruled the 90s and 2000s, and they still
Viva Pinata is a great.
Yes, love Viva Pinata.
I didn't know they made Star Fox Adventures.
That wasn't too bad. Cameo Elements of Power, if you ever played that.
Did they make Jet Force Gemini too? Yeah.
Yes, they did. Yep. Diddy Kong Racing. In the last 5 years, or since 2015, here's what they've released: Rare Replay, which is just a repackaging of all their bangers; Sea of Thieves, the new Battletoads, and then that's it.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
Sea of Thieves is a big game. Sea of Thieves,
I mean, takes a lot because it's a live service, so it takes a lot of people to support. I'm really excited. I don't know if you have seen the trailer for Everwild. It's in like this weird kind of, I won't even say development hell, but it just still hasn't like come out. They keep like pushing it back, and they're really quiet on it. I assume they've like restarted development or something, but dude, I mean, I'll buy anything Rare makes. That's kind of my thing.
It definitely gets the nod, man. It's phenomenal. It's a great pick. That was a sneaky one too. I wasn't thinking about that. My next pick, I think, is, I'm curious if this is going to be up there for you, but when I started thinking through it, I was like, I gotta give the respect to this developer. I'm not sure like what games they've developed versus what they've published, but my third choice is gonna be Square Enix.
Nice. I thought so. I have them on my list as well. It's weird, yeah, because you're right. They both publish and develop. They're a Bethesda style, right? Where it's like,
but develop wise, I know for sure they made the Final Fantasies. I know for sure they made Chrono Trigger. I know for sure they made Dragon Quest. I believe they made I believe it was made by them like the Tactics Ogres games, which I've heard are very good. And then Kingdom Hearts, I don't know if that was published or made by them. I'm not sure.
I think you're right. I think it's made by them.
So I mean, just right there, it's hard not to put them in top 10. I mean,
agreed.
Just for Final Fantasy plus Chrono Trigger plus Dragon Quest. It's my JRPG pick for sure.
Totally. I think what's cool about them, they're super like, even though it's all fine, like it's all JRPGs, but it's a lot of different like slices of JRPGs. Like they've done turn-based, they do kind of action-based, they've done MMOs, and granted it's funny because these are all within Final Fantasy. Like I'm just naming off genres of Final Fantasy games that have been made. I think like with FF7 Remake, they just proved that it's like they can make modern games and still kick ass. Like they don't have to be like in that old style of just like turn-based, weird, clunky gameplay. They're like, no, we can make an action game and it'll fuck. And you're like, yeah, you're right.
And they did a good job, man. Like I think they deserve to be top 10. I don't know if I took them a little high, but for sure, right, they gotta be on the list. There's no way that they don't make a cut in the top 10. But maybe I'm crazy.
Number 6. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with this will be my last, I think, easy pick, but I'm gonna go with what? Why can't I? Capcom.
Okay, yeah, I feel, and again, this is like we were talking about you taking it as a whole. You're not splitting it up. Yeah, it's crazy as a whole catalog. It's nuts.
The thing that's crazy about Capcom is they have like ebb and flowed. They started off like incredible. Like with the early Resident Evils and stuff like that, like in the early 2000s and even a little bit of the 90s, Mega Man and stuff like that, like they were really, really good. And then they took like a little bit of a dip. They have a list of what they call platinum titles. So platinum titles are games that have sold over 1 million copies. And that's first of all contains like hundreds of games. And then they basically recently in like June of this year put out their top 10. So basically their top 10 best-selling games. Out of all of those games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Since 2016, 7 of those are on that list. So in the last like 5-6 years or 7 years, they've been incredible. I mean, number 1 is Monster Hunter World, which sold 18.3 million copies.
Oh yeah, it's a fatty.
Next up is Resident Evil 7, which I didn't love. But I know a lot of people loved it. Monster Hunter Rise was incredible. The new Resident Evil 2, incredible. They put Monster Hunter Iceborne as its own game, which is actually kind of true. But Resident Evil, the only ones that weren't before 2016 or were before 2016 are Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 6, and Street Fighter 2. And Street Fighter 2 is like a goated game. And
I mean, dude, they've got a catalog.
It's crazy.
Like if you're counting, I mean, you've got, like you said, Resident Evil, you got Lost Planet in there, you've got Dragon's Dogma in there, you got Devil May Cry in there, you've got and then all the ones you already named, Monster Hunter, Resident Evil,
Marvel vs. Capcom,
Street Fighter,
Mega Man. Well, and the cool thing I like about Capcom right now is they're still like taking swings for like new IPs. They released a trailer and this game is still ways away, but remember like back in 2020 that game Pragmata, which was like some weird like, I don't even know, like Death Stranding style looking game. So like they're not even like just resting on their, I mean they are, but yeah, like they're expanding out and not just, milking their franchises. They're milking their franchises, but at the same time.
I love that they're making Dragon's Dogma too. They can do no wrong in my mind. I'm torn for this next one, man. There's some that I know others would have higher, but for me it's just not the same level of respect. I mean, I think I'm gonna have to take it. I think I'm gonna have to take Bethesda Game Studios.
Nice.
I hate that it's so high, but for me, Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim and Fallout 3 are like all so high up on my list. Like,
yep.
I think I have to do it. I know like they haven't done much else, but man, like the amount of hours and time I've spent on those games, like I've got to give it the respect.
Well, also like those, I would say, especially Skyrim. Skyrim's like a genre-defining game, pretty much. Like popularized like RPGs. Just like they basically made them like mainstream to where people like aren't afraid to play like these fantasy RPGs or anything like that. Like Skyrim, for as much flack as everyone gives it, that keeps re-releasing it, and all that stuff, but like it is essential to, like, if you're telling the story of video games, you talk about Skyrim.
Yeah,
you talk about
and
Skyrim.
Also, like, they have like Arena and Daggerfall and some of those older games, and like I've messed around with them. I mean, like they just, those games are so formative to me, so important to me, and I think arguably there's some better developers on here.
Right.
But personally, I just think this one kind of gets some brownie points with me, so I took them up high.
Yep.
So who's up next for you?
I'm gonna pick.
I'm excited this is.
Atlas.
Dude, I respect it. I was thinking you were gonna grab them at some point.
It also gets obviously some points for having my favorite game ever made. Yeah, having my favorite game ever made, which is Persona 5. They make a lot of like different, like, they aren't afraid to make like different games. Like Catherine's like a puzzle game. 13 Sentinels is pretty much like a virtual novel, and people love 13 Sentinels. They released
Shin Megami Tensei and Persona for me, like, jump out. And also, there was one RPG that they made on the DS that I was quite a fan of.
We just, it was funny because we were saying like how it's cool Capcom doesn't milk their series. Now that's the one one knock on Atlas is they milk the shit out of their games. Like they have like a Persona 5 like dancing game. They have Persona 5 Scramble, which technically wasn't developed by them, but like they just milk their IPs like just an old cow. But the thing that's crazy is like it's still kind of like these spin-offs still kind of fuck. Like the like Persona 4 Ultimax, the fighting game. Love Strikers. The dancing game, played it a little bit. Don't hate it. It was pretty fun. Like they just like all their stuff is cool. And then also one thing I like is that they finally like woken up and realized that their games are just trapped in the past. And so they're like, oh hey, let's just start porting everything on the PC.
Yeah, I respect Atlas. That's a great pick. So looking at your list now, Nintendo, Rare, Capcom, Atlas on my side, Bioware, Blizzard, Square Enix, Bethesda Game Studios.
What's funny is you're very Western heavy and I'm very Japan heavy, which isn't surprising. Yeah.
I mean, I had to throw Square Enix in there for sure.
Square and Rare, yeah, we would swap them and they'd be pretty much exclusive Japanese and Western game studios.
But I'm gonna round out with a hipster pick for my last one. This is one that I've rode with for a while now, and they just continue to make games that like I really enjoy. So I don't think this one's at risk being lost to you, but I'm gonna go with Obsidian as my
nice. Yeah.
So a couple of things with them. One, they made sequels to a lot of Bioware games, so it kind of feeds into the Bioware piece of it. I think they were like a spinoff of the Black Isle Studios, but they KOTOR 2, Neverwinter Nights 2, Fallout New Vegas.
Yep.
And then they made their own original IP, Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2, which I love both of them, and Deadfire, or 2 is Deadfire. They're very good. They also did South Park Stick of Truth, which is
that game is so good. Yeah. That game is so good.
Very good game.
Yes.
And then Outerworlds, which I really liked as well too. I thought that was a solid game, and it's the type of game that I like, and they are always so zany with it, and like I don't know. I'm just a big fan, and I think an honorable mentions is probably where they lie, but for me personally, I just slide them up and give them some respect.
Outerworlds, I'm going to be really curious to compare that against Starfield when Starfield comes out, because because I liked Outerworlds as well, and I thought it was like a much more like colorful, like less serious version.
Too,
yeah, exactly. And I still think when I watch those Starfield trailers, like I still don't see that. right? I still don't see like a personality to it, and Obsidian nails that. All right.
So what do you think? What's number 10?
I'm tied between two. Basically, I can do. There's a more mainstream pick, and then there's the hips, kind of the more hipster pick. I'm just a shiny god.
Synapse, I'm a shiny boy.
I'm a shiny boy.
Shiny?
There's some, it's funny because, I mean, I know I'm tied between two. There are some really big studios.
We're going to go rapid fire
touch.
after the top 10. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to just kind of rapid fire through some of these.
It's there's at least 3 or 4 I'm looking at my list, and it's a hot take that neither of us took these. I'll go with the hipster pick. This one is also, I'm kind of betting on the future here, but I'm gonna go with Supergiant.
Oh, I like that. I had them on my list. I don't even think that's that bad of a hipster pick. I mean, it's just they are 3 for 3 eaters.
Yeah, exactly. That's my thing is like what's so cool is their games are all like really, really unique. Like I think Bastion was the first game I played of theirs, and I remember how cool it was when like I remember reading reviews. Like the thing that makes Bastion cool is like you have a narrator who just basically guides you through the entire. It's just this cool little gimmick, and then the music slap. But all 3 of their games, that Transistor and obviously
Transistor is the weak one for me.
I would agree.
Honestly, Hades is crazy. Like Bastion's nuts. Hades is like.
Hades is unbelievable.
Level Pyre I beat.
They did make Pyre. You're right. So I honestly completely forgot about that.
Because honestly, Pyre
is pretty good. But I never played it.
It's better than Transistor, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good.
Completely forgot about that, but you're right.
So 4 out of 4.
Yeah, and I mean, and I think also like Hades is such a special game. Hades does so many incredible. There's nothing wrong with that game. There's no spot where it drags. There's no spot where something feels clunky. Everything is good. The characters are awesome. The music is awesome. The combat is awesome. Everything's good. Like there's nothing bad about the game, and it's very rare. Even some of my favorite games of all time have parts where they drag. Yeah, and things that are like kind of annoying. And Hades has none of that. There's no annoying menus or weird thing. Nothing. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, I agree. I think Hades has it keeps you engrossed the full time you're playing it.
Yep.
Like you may reach a point where you're done with it, but it keeps your attention the whole time through. It's really good. And
it feels really good to be good at the game.
Yeah, right. Agreed. We've talked about that. We like games that give you that feeling. Do you want to rapid fire through some of these honorable mentions?
Yeah.
So one that I had in my top 5, but I pushed out was Bungie.
Dude, Bungie was literally my next one.
Yeah, Halo and Destiny, they nailed it with both. Like Halo is nonstop. Like it's phenomenal. So I feel like Bungie was one that was on my list. I ended up pulling it out and moved Square Enix in.
It was one of the first times I've been like really, really engrossed with like a game story. And Halo 3 is one of my 10 out of 10s, and that's why a big reason I wanted to pick.
Reach is up there for me too.
Yeah, and that's why I really wanted to pick. I was really close to picking Bungie.
So that was one. You want to throw out one that was on your
yeah, I mean,
rapid fire through.
Yeah, Insomniac. Like, I mean, they don't make bad games. Like Insomniac just doesn't make
That's a great one.
I didn't
have them on my list.
I don't love their games as much as everyone else does. Like none of them are higher than like an 8 or an 8.5 for me, but all their games are good. Ratchet and Clank, Resistance, Spyro, Sunset Overdrive was just the sneakiest one-off ever made, and that was awesome.
You know what studio is like that for me, but others will say they're 10 out of 10s is Rockstar.
I'm on the same page too. On the same page.
GTA for me is like an 8.5, 9. Red Dead 8.5, 9. Bully, Max Payne. All these games are good. Just like they don't edge out some of these other guys personally to me. But like some people would be like, how can you not? Like how did we not include them in top 10? You know what I mean? It's like, and I have to say, I respect that. You're right.
And on that same note, From Software. Like
you're
much more of a From Software guy than I am.
Yep.
I really, really liked Bloodborne a lot. I didn't like Elden Ring as much as everyone else. And I think the reason why is I like the gameplay loop of Soulsborne games or From Software games in like 15-hour bites.
Yeah.
Once I go past 15 hours, I'm like, I've had enough. Like I understand the loop. I don't really feel like playing this anymore. And that's almost exactly where I stopped at Elden Ring. I think I got like 30 hours in and sat there and yeah, I understood what it was. But yeah, I mean, I respect them and I know people love that studio.
It's kind of like Skyrim in the sense of like genre defining. Like they made their own genre. The game was like that popular,
which is cool. That's so cool.
It's very cool. I respect that. That's a great one. Another one we left off that people I think would be annoyed by is Valve. Valve has Half-Life, has Left 4 Dead, has Team Fortress, Dota, Portal. Like they have a bunch of. I mean, Dota is kind of a cop out, but Portal. I mean, they really. I think people love. They have that cult following and that love. So that was a big one that I thought could have probably been top 10.
Yeah, I think with Valve is also they were so PC centric. So at least me personally, I just didn't have a lot of experience with them. Another quick one I have on here is Respawn. I think.
Ooh, I didn't have Respawn on mine.
I think Respawn. It's one of those. It's one of those things where they just make good games. Like they don't make bad games. Yeah, Apex, Titanfall, and Star Wars Fallen Order. Yeah. And I like that Fallen Order was. If Fallen Order wasn't successful, I wouldn't have even thought about them on this list. But the fact they chose a different genre and were really successful with it was cool.
One that I'm kind of surprised because I think it's a recent thing for you is Intelligent Systems.
Dude, they're on mine too. Yeah, I have Intelligent Systems.
That's such a sneaky pick. WarioWare, Paper Mario are kind of like the sneaky ones, but obviously Fire Emblem Advance Wars as the top, and like just a lot of memories on my Game Boy Advance with Fire Emblem and Advance Wars. And
I think Fire Emblem not Three Houses, Awakening, like Intelligent Systems deserves credit for saving the franchise.
The other one of my two for here that is connected to you is Fire Axis, which is XCOM, Civ, and then like the Sid Meier's game. But I was just thinking like that's a good Civ City. I mean, that's a good little package of games, kind of like Respawn, where it's like, all right, XCOM is tried and true, Civilization tried and true, and then you have some of those classics like Civ City, stuff like that.
Oh, here's one that we didn't mention that I thought was kind of surprising was Naughty Dog.
Yep, I have them right here. That's another one that I think people will be angry about. Crash Bandicoot, Last of Us, Uncharted.
Yeah, I think the thing is like I didn't start becoming a PlayStation person till like 2017, so I didn't like play a lot of Uncharted stuff. Didn't play a lot of Last of Us. I went back and played them.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the Rockstar thing, right? I just don't have as much love as other people have for these games.
I'm with you. For me, they're not a top 10, just out of my personal preferences. But it's kind of like Rockstar, where it's like, how did you not?
Yeah, it's the exact same. They feel very much the same to me. I have the same feelings about both those studios.
CD Projekt Red. I think Witcher 1, 2, 3. I played all of them. I loved all of them. Gwent, I liked the spinoff game. I liked their Gwent Thronebreaker game. And then Cyberpunk. I mean, I didn't love it, but it wasn't bad. So I think they definitely deserve to get a nod for sure.
Yeah, we don't have to beat the Cyberpunk horse. I think it was really, really good, and I played the shit out of it. I think I had like 70-something hours in that game.
Yeah, you did play a good
I played a lot of it, and I really liked it. It's one of those things that's like, man, it would have been a bummer if it had come out. If it had waited like one more year, I think it could have been potentially like an all-timer. This one I want to talk a little bit longer about is Platinum.
Sure. That's a good one. I would say that's a good one.
The thing with Platinum is while they have some insanely good games, they have Nier, they have Bayonetta, Platinum on games. Oops, not just Platinum Metal. The thing that's an issue with them is they are so incredibly inconsistent. There's the whole bit about good Platinum and bad Platinum, and it is so true. They released Astral Chain Did one Wonderful 101 remastered, love that. Then they released Babylon's Fall, which is like regarded as maybe like the worst game in the last 3 years. And then they're about to release Bayonetta 3, which is probably going to be really good. One that's really recent for me is Riot. And while they only have essentially 4 games or 3 games right now, which is Valorant, League, Teamfight Tactics, and maybe that's it. Actually,
Legends of Runeterra. It's like
Legends of Runeterra, and they actually, I'm not sure if they developed it. I think they did. They did a cool like turn-based RPG called like, what was it called? Like Legends of the Fallen King or something like that.
Yeah.
And that looks kind of good. I've wrestled with buying that.
They're like Valve to me, where they're like everyone knows they're goated, but I'm not gonna put them in my top 5. But everybody knows that Riot's awesome.
I think one thing with Riot that they've done the same thing Epic has done, which we haven't mentioned, by the way. Neither of us mentioned Epic.
Epic's another great one, man.
But they're like it's the same thing with Riot. Riot's not as intense as this, but like they're a multimedia company now. Like they're not just a video game company. Riot makes Arcane, which if you haven't seen Arcane, is probably one of the best TV series on Netflix. It's absolutely incredible. And it's all done like technically in-house. Like it's so funny when you watch Arcane, it's like developed by Riot Games. Like they just made the game in-house, or they just made the TV show in-house, and it's
so cool. It's awesome. One personal one for me, Sony Online Entertainment. That's EverQuest 1 and 2, which is crazy. That's Star Wars Galaxies, which was dope. That's PlanetSide, which was like the first online shooter, and then Vanguard, which sucked, but I played. So like I just have played a disproportionate amount of their games, and I always have a soft spot for them, even though like they are just arguably not a good company. But I mean, EQ 1 and 2, Star Wars Galaxies, PlanetSide, I think it's a great little catalog there. So that was one I wanted to give some respect to.
Love that,
Sony, I don't know, is Sony Interactive Studios, is that a publisher? Like, do they have, like, because God of War is like Santa Monica,
It's Santa Monica, yeah. I mean, you could maybe do the Nintendo thing, but like the thing that's different between Nintendo and Sony is like Nintendo is just a monolith where they're just like, we are Nintendo, we make Nintendo games. Whereas Sony's like, hey, here's our Santa Monica studio, here's Insomniac, here's Blue Point, here's Housemarque, like here's all these, and Blue Point is another one I haven't forgot to mention that I think is worth mentioning, but all these like little, they really put emphasis on their studios, whereas Nintendo and even Square Enix is kind of guilty of this, just blobs of development teams, so it's hard to like discern them.
True. That's a good call. A couple other ones, id Software, so Doom, Wolfenstein Quake.
Of course.
That deserves
new
love.
The new Dooms are
awesome.
So
they're doing it right now too, which is awesome. Black Owl Studios, which I mentioned earlier, which is basically the spinoff. I think they were either like a team like Bioware under Interplay, or they were somehow connected to Bioware, but they made Fallout 2. They finished Fallout 1. They made Planescape Torment. They made Icewind Dale. So obviously not a studio anymore. The remnants of them, I think, are Bioware and Obsidian, but Larian Studios is one of my favorites now, which obviously they have Divinity 1 and 2.
And Baldur's Gate 3.
I played Divinity, it was like a Diablo clone of Divinity 2, but it was like very Divine Divinity 2.
Oh, okay.
It was really, really fun. I played that back in the day as well. So
Hal Labs, which is all the Kirby games, and it's just also Smash. Whether you don't like platform fighters or not, I would consider probably one of the greatest fighting games of all time. It's because it's mainly because it's so accessible. Like no one
Smash
sits down with their friends.
That's the only fighter game that I enjoy. So that says a lot.
And I think that's the case for a lot. Like I think a lot of people are like you, where it's like the only fighting game they like is Smash, and then they're like, because it's so like Smash is so chaotic and anyone can win. And that's what makes it fun. Like that's what makes it accessible. Is even if you're a god at Smash, like you can still have like someone pull out a hammer and hit you with it and stuff like that. Whereas like you don't want to play Street Fighter 4, Marvel vs. Capcom with your friend, just have them ream your ass the entire time.
No, I totally agree.
The ultimate form of of recency bias, but it's Monolith.
That's good. I think that I honestly was thinking about Xenoblade earlier today, where I was like that they deserve respect. They're definitely an honorable mention. Like there's no way they're creeping into that top 10 list or anything, but they're good.
One thing that also I think people don't give Monolith credit for is obviously all 3 Xenoblades are. I like 2 and 3 a whole lot. I didn't love 1, but I'm playing 3 right now, and sensational game, absolutely sensational. The thing that people don't give them credit for is it's because of them that Breath of the Wild exists. They're the ones who basically helped make that open world, and what they can do with the power of the
Switch.
Especially
for Nintendo. Especially for selling it to Nintendo. Because like Skyrim was like, oh, we're never gonna have a Skyrim type game on a Nintendo, console, right? I may have just made that up, but like if you think about it though, it's like
totally.
To your point, like they did it on Nintendo hardware, and it's kind of like paved the way a little bit. Definitely probably planted a little idea in Nintendo's head.
Both Xenoblade 2 and as like 3 right now, like the scale of those games, at least for the Switch, is crazy. I'll be playing Xenoblade 3 and just staring and not understanding how that game is being played, or how that's running on my Switch.
I'm gonna snag a Switch now that Ogre's Tactics is coming on the Switch. I think I'm just gonna cop and just deal with the repercussions later, because Breath 2 I want to play as well. So
which I think will also have some help from Monolith as well.
Hopefully.
But
dude, what a list.
I know, a big fatty list, and that's I think I've mentioned every single one.
Dude, that was fun.
Yeah.
I love just like getting to go through. I mean, it's just crazy. You just realize the amount of games growing up are connected to these different developers. You're like, I gotta give love. I gotta give respect. Rare caught me off guard. I did not think of Rare.